everyone, Maxim here, and I am back again with some more WICSO. Now, in today's video, we're going to be focusing on episode 12 of my What If Civilization Started Over series. Now, in the last video, we saw the creation of a bunch of new countries in Africa. We saw, I believe, the creation of Poland as a country, and also we just saw some minor border expansion and stuff like that. So if you guys didn't watch last episode, you should go ahead and watch it so you know what we're looking at here. But in today's video, we're going to be focusing on largely the redrawing of the world map as a whole. Now, it's not going to be redrawn with war; that will have to wait later. But the world will be redrawn. But there will be a lot of border tweaking, I believe, because some of these borders are honestly ugly, and I kind of want to fix some of them. Now, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you leave a like down below in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we're trying to reach like 300 subs right now. And I also wanted to give you guys some new WICSO content because it's been a month. I haven't really been touching upon this world of mine until now. So the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting off here in Britain, and we're actually going to be going ahead and seeing Belgica finally going ahead and continuing its expansion into the British Isles. Now, the reason why Belgica actually stopped is because, well, they were kind of chill with what they had, but now there's some people in Belgica that are looking to kind of expand the frontiers of their empire and see what really lies on this barren island. So they will go ahead and completely conquer the entire country, going ahead in the north, eventually conquering Scotland and these neighboring islands. So now, for the first time, we have Belgica looking something like this. They look kind of big. They do look kind of small, though, to be honest, for a country that controls the British Isles and a majority of Europe. So yeah, but yeah, for now they're gonna be holding on. Oh, they'll also whoops. Oh, they'll also go ahead and conquer southern Sweden. So now they have what is the city of Malmo under their control. So next up, we're actually going to be going ahead and seeing Poland make a move. And Poland will actually do something interesting. Although, yes, they will send expeditionary groups to this region of southern Sweden, what they're actually going to be doing is they're actually going to be setting up a sort of puppet government. Now, this puppet government will basically be, it won't be like a part of Poland itself, and it will instead be its own sovereign country. Basically, in other words, Poland doesn't really want to be a tyrant, but considering that this is a nation founded by their people, they're okay with it, just being a semi-independent vassal of the Polish state. So with that being said, a new Polish state in Sweden will be born. They will go ahead and conquer this island. And they are actually going to go ahead and sail to this island. That is until the Ukrainians manage to take the entire area. Poland will have its capital city, and Poland will have and Sweden, or I guess South Sweden, will have its capital right about here. So yeah. So now we have one of the newest puppet states in the entire world. Where we will be going ahead and seeing Ukraine continue to expand. Now, Ukraine is a semi-democratic country. They are a sort of confederal-like nation. So every territory that they've conquered thus far basically has like its own they have their own government, stuff like that. They are sort of semi-independent from the government. Within Ukraine, there is actually some movement going on. It's not like a sort of not, and when I say movement, I don't mean like activist movement or anything, but there is some political shifting beginning to happen inside of Ukraine. People are suspecting if they are becoming an autocracy like some of the other countries in the world. Ukraine thus far has been quite a democratic country, so people are so people so people are kind of they're kind of unprepared for this so people are kind of like watching the situation really closely because they don't know if Ukraine has any hidden shenanigans hidden around. But for now, Ukraine will go ahead and continue conquering their land. More land. However, though, it is here that we are starting to see the mid stages of complaints about overextension. You see, in the ancient era, countries can often overextend themselves, and yeah, that's resulted in a lot of things. And Ukraine, in particular, is a very large country realistically, it would take a very long time to reach these frontier provinces of the empire. So there is some worry within Ukraine that these regions could break away. However, though, for now, with money, suspiciously enough, Ukraine will go ahead and bribe some of these officials to keep governing their territory for as long as they can. I swear, let's go ahead and go down south to Mesopotamia because I need to tell you guys something about Mesopotamia. Now, Mesopotamia, as you all may know, is located in a region where they don't really have is located in a region where they don't really have any real enemies or small countries to fight. Mesopotamia, by this point, is a pretty powerful country. I believe they are still the most powerful country in the world, and although India is pretty close to that, but Mesopotamia really wants room to but Mesopotamia, but recently there's been a lot going on in Mesopotamia, and now a lot of Mesopotamians want the empire to expand. Unfortunately, the empire is kind of trapped. They are trapped by these three countries over here in the north. They're also trapped by they're also trapped by a big Libyan empire over here. Meanwhile, they have India probably wanting them to not go into Persia, and also, most of all, we have Oman, who is their ally. So where can Mesopotamia really go? Well, realistically, they actually don't know. They don't know where else to go. They are practically trapped. They would like to go between into Libya, and they would actually prefer going into Libya, but the thing is, Libya is part of an alliance that Italy is in. So they're not really too enthusiastic about that. They could attack this country. However, though, they are in a big Balkan alliance alongside Albania, Bosnia, and Dobruja. So where can they really go? Well, the answer they do. Well, again, as I was saying, they don't know the answer. And at this point, Mesopotamia will kind of begin to experience a sort of degrading and internal tensions inside. There are now a lot of tensions happening within the capital be- because there because a lot of the people there just don't know what to do. They want to expand for the people, but the thing is they don't really know where. Where? We'll have to go ahead and check on them later because going elsewhere in Volga, we up here to to Volga, we will be seeing them doing something interesting. They will continue expanding their claims over here in central Russia and basically, yeah, they're basically just gonna expand their empire. So Volga will continue doing this. They'll be going ahead and doing some shenanigans around here, like conquering more stuff, building new cities and stuff like that. However, though, it is here that we will go ahead and see Volga beginning to go ahead and go a little bit more westward, now wanting to now wanting to see if they will actually reach something. So Volga will begin going ahead, moving further and further, deeper and deeper into Central Asia, hoping to just reach somewhere where they will kind of they will there are some by this point moves to kind of give up, but as you can see, Volga is not going to give up. So Volga will just keep moving despite the protests of their people, and even and as just as when hope is lost, all hope is seemingly lost. Volga will find this Lake Baikal. Uh, Baikal. This will kind of reinvigorate the Volgans to keep expanding because by this point the Baikal because by this point the Volgans have developed their own little trade route that allows them to go back and forth between the capital of the empire and back. And also, this is kind of a barren region that only they're in, so Volga can really just expand wherever they want. So they're gonna go ahead and wrap around Lake Baikal. And it is here that we are kind of seeing the Volgans beginning to grow into a sort of Mongol empire of some sorts. Are they going to become a Mongol empire? We're gonna have to find out. However, though, for now, Volga will continue expanding, and they will actually go ahead and begin sending expeditionaries up north in order to see what lays in order to see what lays around this region. They will be going ahead and slowly beginning to thicken their area, and before you know it, they are now reaching up, and before you know it, they will officially touch the Russian coast. This will cause another reinvigoration within Volga because by this point Volga now knows that they are in a region with barely any people. In fact, they're actually the first ones to reach the area. So this will actually raise a huge amount of morale within Volga because now they know they are the only ones in this region for thousands of square miles and it's all completely free land. So they're going to be going ahead. So we're going to be going ahead and seeing Volga continuing to expand its territory, becoming bigger and bigger, essentially becoming kind of Russia in a way. But they are not supposed to be Russia. They are their own thing. Their own thing. Now, does the world know about Volga's recent power upgrade? Not real. No, the world does not know. Hell, even their ally Ukraine doesn't know. And speaking of Ukraine, we're actually going to be going ahead and seeing an official alliance signed between these two, that being the Pointed Star Alliance. That being the Pointed Star Alliance. That being the Pointed Star Alliance. Um Hang on a sec. Hmm. Yeah, whoops. Yeah, whoops. Sorry, I'll go ahead and be back and, yeah, I'll go ahead and be back. I'll just fix it. Okay, guys, we're back. Sorry for the bit inconveniences there, but yeah, I'm actually gonna go ahead and have to update the alliance map because it is actually kind of outdated. So yeah, but just so you know that a new alliance will be signed between Volga and Ukraine, that being the Three-Pointed Star Alliance. Now, Ukraine and well, if you know the history between Ukraine and Volga, you know that these were actually breakaways of Armenia, so it's actually only natural that they will become allies. But nonetheless, these two countries will now make their alliance official. Speaking of making their alliance official, let's go ahead and go to Armenia, where we're actually going to be seeing something revolutionary. Well, maybe not really important, but I don't really know if you could call it revolutionary, but Armenia will be going ahead and moving their capital right around where Yerevan is in our real timeline. Now, I believe Armenia is actually IRL Armenia is actually a part of Mesopotamia. So, but what they're going to be doing is they're going to be moving their capital a little bit inland, right over here in the mountains. So mountains, which will now kind of legitimize their position as an Armenian state. Now, I said that. Now, I didn't really know what to call this country back then, but now that the capital is located more in the center of the country, now the name Armenia is much more accurate. Speaking of Armenia, let's go over here to China, where we will go ahead and see them beginning to snake towards the center of, well, I guess Asia. By this point, China has grown into a massive country with a lot with massive country. They are, of course, the most populous country in the world, and at this point, China is beginning to get some imperial ambitions. And it is here that I once again must warn you guys that within China there are some politics shifting. Although they are part of an alliance with their three Asian neighbors, China is kind of beginning to get certain feelings about nationalism. We'll have to see what that means in the future. But for now, China will go ahead and begin expanding. They will go ahead and start conquering what is now modern day Mongolia, and eventually they will go ahead and continue their expedition along the route. Elsewhere, we will go ahead and see Afghanistan continuing, or actually, no, it's not Afghanistan, it's Kyrgyzstan. We will go ahead and see Kyrgyzstan beginning to expand its claims into Asia until eventually they meet up with Chinese officials, which will officially link the world, or I guess Eurasia, for the first time in WICSO history. And now people know of the existence of Asia, and now they realize, holy shit, there's another new continent out here. However, though, most of Europe will not really react a lot to the news because the only issue is they can't really reach it. And besides, how are they going to go there if there's seemingly just nothing around here? So now the world will have thoughts of marching straight over to Asia to start pillaging whatever lands they may find. Well, maybe not pillaging, but colonizing. Yeah, at this point you know what I mean. But anyways, moving over here to moving over here to the moving over here back but anyways, continuing to remain here in Asia, we will go ahead and see India continuing to conquer more and more land. Now, I actually forgot to turn off anti-aliasing here, but as you can see, India is starting to go into a very big country. By this point, however, it's not really looking well for India. Now, just like with Mesopotamia and China, within India there are a lot of politics beginning to shift. Although India, yes, is the richest country in the world by this point, they are beginning to have some competition. In addition, India by this point is an extremely massive country. They control lands all the way from Singapore down to Pakistan. They can't Realistically, they couldn't really control all of this unless they had extreme cohesion. However, though, cohesion is the literal thing missing in Indian politics. Within India, things are not beginning to look so cohesive. A lot of politicians are beginning to disagree on what they want to do next and where they want to go. They're beginning to disagree on what the future of India looks like going for the future. Nonetheless, however, though, even with these shifting politics, for now India will go ahead and continue to hold on. However, though, within the frontiers of their empire, things are starting to change. I will not delve into any further, but just so you know that yeah, within this episode there's probably going to be a lot of political shifting on both the inside and outside. As we're moving over here to Valencia, yeah, we haven't really touched up on this guy in a while. We will go ahead and see them beginning to expand their African colony. They will continue expanding down to Morocco, eventually managing to discover these islands where they mysteriously discover some random hidden settlements. Wonder who could have used those. However, though, for now, Valencia will remain chill about it as they will go ahead and continue going down south. However, though, even though they are kind of starting to overstretch, this is just desert and they are controlling coastal territory. So for the Valencians, it's kind of easier to control. I swear we will go ahead and see the Villians going ahead and conquering these little islands over here in the Mediterranean, as well as this random Mediterranean. It's not the Mediterranean, it's the Atlantic. But they're gonna go ahead and find this island. At this point, Villia is starting to have some expansionist thoughts because even though they are hemmed in the Iberian Peninsula, and they would really love to go down and and kick kick this country's ass. The thing is, yeah, they are kind of a medium-sized country. They are like the same. They're like equal power, and Villia knows that this country has a colony in North Africa. So what they're going to be doing is what Villia is going to be doing is they're going to be doing something interesting. From here, they will begin to make expeditions along the African coast. Hearing of the stories of alleged sailors sailing off to new worlds, Villia will go ahead and start sailing ships down the African coast. They will eventually go ahead and find these islands and whoops, find the they will eventually go ahead and find these islands, and it is here that they actually go ahead and go into Dakar, where they will go ahead and meet the West Africans, or I guess Senegalese, who settled this land. However, though, considering that these villains were not armed, they will instead plead ask this country for help. Now, Senegal, despite the fact that these are Europeans, they don't actually know that these are Europeans, by the way. They will go ahead and help out the Villian sailors under the extreme condition that the Villians do not tell them of the existence of their country. Speaking of Senegal, by this point, Senegal has expanded to right around this size. So, yeah. So as the Villians make their way down to Senegal, they will eventually go ahead and refuel there as the Senegalese promise them that they will not tell anyone of their origins, or rather the fact that they actually exist. The Villians will keep that promise, and the Villian sailors will go ahead and leave out here into these islands. From there, they begin having aspirations to actually start moving westward because by this point, the world has mostly been focused on Afro-Eurasia. They haven't really moved elsewhere yet. So now the Villians are starting to wonder, is there anything out here in the West? However, though, for now, the Villians will retain control of these islands and they'll actually be a little bit chill. I swear we will go ahead and see the Somalis continuing their expansion. They will begin going ahead and expanding down south, now expanding down the coast of Tanzania. Now expanding down the coast of Tanzania. By this point, Somalia is still a brutal autocracy, and they're still basically persecuting anyone who goes against the government. And yeah, by this point, Somalia is still doing dictator things. They will immediately begin to They will go ahead and settle these islands as as they will go ahead and start colonizing more and more of Africa. It is here that they will eventually touch the border of and Victoria. However, though, since Victoria had sent horsemen to kind of scout out the area, they were warned of the incoming Somali soldiers. So, in a strategic move, the Victorians will go ahead and sacrifice all of this northern land around Lake Victoria, hoping to just get away from the Somalis as fast as possible. In response, the Somalis will go ahead and wrap their claims around the northern half of Lake Victoria, thinking that no one was there. However, though, Victoria, despite of its fears of ever like bordering Somalia, will decide to stay resilient as they will go ahead and continue expanding and eventually make their way down into Lake Malawi, conquering the land around it. It is here that they will also begin going ahead and digging deeper and deeper into Tanzania, and it is here that the Victorians start proposing a plan to start sending propaganda into these newly conquered regions of Somalia in the hopes that they will break away. For now, however, Somalia will keep expanding. And speaking of expansion, Somalia will go ahead and start conquering what is now modern day Sudan, as they will rapidly move up the Nile River, eventually meeting Mesopotamia, where Mesopotamia is kind of an unhappy fan of Somalia. By this point, Somalia has established itself a very big empire, and it is here that we will go ahead and actually see them completely conquer Sudan, turning Somalia into this ginormous country ruled by a dictator, or I guess the ancient form of a dictator. Now, how is Somalia treating their colonists? Well, in other words, they're basically forcing peasants into these new lands and beating them up and telling them to just keep on colonizing for the country or else die. And also, in addition, their families are getting held hostage for it. So yeah, Somalia by this point has turned into basically North Korea, kind of. North Korea, kind of. Hearing these stories from the borderlands, the Victorians are absolutely terrified and 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 now even more anti-Somali sentiment is beginning to form in Tanzania, or I guess Victoria. For now, however, they will remain neutral. Elsewhere over here in Poland, elsewhere over here in northern Sweden, we will go ahead and see the Swedish kingdom. We will go ahead and see the puppet Polish kingdom continuing to expand. So the Polish state over here in Sweden will eventually wrap around, what is basically Sweden, and from there they will basically start expanding rapidly into these unsettled lands. They will eventually make their way around here, in which the Belgicans will go ahead and make a landing over here in Norway, which will essentially kind of which will give them borders with the puppet state that Poland has in Sweden. Now, to talk about the relations of Poland and Belgica, they are friendly. Don't worry. They are friendly. Don't worry. And in fact, their cooperation in colonizing the Nordic states is actually something that the Belgicans and the Polish have been working very close together with. So for now, however, though, it is here that we will eventually see the Poles stop, as by this point they have conquered a huge amount. They have conquered a tremendous amount of land that realistically would be too much for them. However, though, let's just go ahead and give them some extra land, and there we go. There we go. Oh, elsewhere over here in Finland, we will actually be seeing another collaborationist country forming. Belgians and Swedes from both Belgica and Poland will go ahead, and also some Ukrainians, will go ahead and start an expedition to form their own country. The reason they want to do this, well, they're secretly avoiding taxes. Yeah, that's basically the reason. They want to avoid the taxes from, colonizing this region. So they will go ahead and start sailing their way throughout the Baltic until eventually they make land. landing in the Åland Islands. It is here that they will go ahead and continue moving upwards until their ship crashes into this little island over here. It is here that we will eventually see the it is here that we will eventually see these new folk. What the hell happened? Oh yeah. But as I was saying, we will go ahead and eventually see the we will go ahead and see the colonizers from both Belgica and Poland moving north, moving further and further north until they eventually reach this island, and it is here that they are forced to land. And now the nation of Bosnia, yes, Bosnia, not Finland, has been born. It is here that they will start colonizing the coasts around Finland and Sweden, and their capital shall be placed right over here right over here along this area. And that's actually going to do it for today's video because I just kind of ran out of ideas. Actually, no. Actually, there will actually be something happening over here in the Philippines. Over here in the Philippines, we will be going ahead and seeing the colonial countries of Korea and Vietnam doing something interesting. Doing something interesting. Doing something interesting. As a sign of cooperation between their countries, the people of this country will go. The people of the Philippine colonies will go ahead and the people of the Philippine colony with the Actually, let me go ahead and rephrase that. With the people of the Philippine colonies feeling very united, the cultures within the Korean and Vietnamese colonies of the Philippines, by this point, they have started to merge. And with this new merged identity forming, the Vietnamese and Koreans will do something special, and as a gift to their cooperation, they will go ahead and release both of their colonies to form, well, basically the WICSO version of the Philippines. Yup, my country is now officially its own independent country in the WICSO series. This is a big moment in history for me, and now we have a new nation born in the archipelago, formed as a federation between Korea and Vietnam. At this point, Korea and Vietnam are now friends. It is here that we will go ahead and see the Philippine nation starting to expand as they will go ahead and start colonizing basically the entirety of the Philippine Islands until eventually the entire archipelago is theirs. Their capital will be set up right around where Manila is in our timeline. Their capital will be set up right where Manila is in our timeline, right over there. And now that's actually going to do it for today's video. So if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. I actually kind of enjoyed making this episode of WICSO because by this point we still have a huge continent to fill. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of WICSO, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. See you guys.